All right, guys, what's happening? What's happening? It is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. Today, we're going to talk about managers, specifically micromanagers, how a micromanager is not actually a manager at all. Let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life. And then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right, what's happening, guys? Good morning to you and happy Tuesday, May 25th, man. You only get one of these guys, so make sure you make it count. It's only going to be Tuesday, May 25th, one time in your life. So let's do everything in our power to make that day one to remember for good reason, right? All right, so this morning we're going to talk about leadership, but specifically managers and micromanagers. Everybody has probably experienced a micromanager at some point in their career, right? And so everybody kind of knows what it feels like to be micromanaged, right? And, you know, what I'm going to tell you guys is I think everybody knows these things, but I think that sometimes too often we get in this kind of firefight in business or in life and we try to control everything. And we think that somehow that control is actually going to work, right? That somehow controlling things is actually going to be successful. And that is kind of where the concept of micromanagement comes from, right? If you see someone trying to manage every detail of everything that you're doing, and it doesn't matter if it's at work or at home or in your personal life or a friend or anything like that, it is generally a control thing, right? It's generally coming from this person's need for control. I would also argue that control in our lives, like that need for control, comes from the state of insecurity. And I don't mean that means that this is an insecure person. I mean that there is an insecurity about the things that are happening. It could mean that they're genuinely an insecure person, but it means that in that scenario, someone has an insecurity. Insecurity leads to wanting to grab control, right? I need to be in control so that I'm not at risk, right? And that leads to people being micromanaged or you being a micromanager. And so what I will tell you is this: micromanager is not actually a manager at all. It's not actually anything to do with manager or leader or anything like that. A micromanager is just that, a person that wants and needs to be in control. Everybody's worked for one. Everybody's probably been one at one point in their career, right? At one point in their life, you've probably tried to micromanage something. Rarely is it actually successful. You know, and if it is successful, if you actually accomplish what you want to accomplish, it's certainly not enjoyable, is it? And so I want you guys to think about that. What it means to be a micromanager. Have you been one? Maybe have you been one recently? Are you being one right now? And so we're going to jump into that this morning. We're going to talk about a couple different things here on that topic. But first, I want to say good morning to some folks. Rodney, Nathaniel, Mike Bonetto, what's happening, brother? Matt Johnson, David Martin, Trudy, good morning to you. Scott Rhodes, Mr. Bob Bernard, good morning to you. Christina, Trisha, Bill, Vicky, Jared, good morning to you guys. And thank you for being here. Christina, you're guilty of that. Well, hopefully this is going to help you expand your mind this morning. Nadia, good morning to you too. Hopefully it's going to help you expand your mind and kind of see what's the other option, right? Because a lot of people, they micromanage things, or they kind of want control over things because they're afraid of the opposite result. And I'm going to give you some examples of how the opposite result has been incredibly successful for me at different times in my life. And again, I'm not by any means saying that I've never done this or been this person, because certainly I think at different times we all have the tendency to be micromanagers or to want to control things. So the first thing that I'm going to say to you is people want to be led. They don't want to be managed. They want to be motivated. They want to be inspired. They want to be educated. That is leadership, right? Leadership is very different than management. And so if you look up the definitions of those words, you'll start to understand the differences between those two. And so for me, when I look at leadership versus management, here's the difference. Leadership has the ability to allow people to grow. It allows people to step into, something maybe they've never done before. And it allows them to step into those roles and make the mistakes necessary to gain their confidence in those scenarios. Now, you might say mistakes and confidence, how are those two things connected? Well, the only way that you learn in life is either by the mistakes that you make or the mistakes that other people have made, so you know how to do something a little bit different. And so it's very important for us, whether it's with our children or whether it's in a business environment, sometimes in our with our friends or our family members, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's great for us to allow a person to make mistakes and allow them to sit in the discomfort of those mistakes. Now, in business, that's attached to obviously financial loss and gain, right? And so we have to be careful with those things, that we don't allow somebody to learn too big of a lesson, that it costs the company money, and that creates instability in the finances of some companies. I've seen this happen, right? Where somebody makes a massive mistake and it causes big time stress inside of a company. Same is true at home, right? You make a big mistake, it costs you thousands of dollars. You forget something, you did whatever it may be, and it causes some real issues, right? So we have to be careful about how we're letting people learn these mistakes, but it's important to let them learn those. So for me, I'll give you guys an example, and this isn't necessarily micromanagement, but more the difference between being involved in everything and then not. And I think this, for Christina and some others that might be feeling like, hey, this is me. I'm kind of working on this right now. When we started our company, obviously I was involved in everything, right? I tried to have my hands in every little detail that I possibly could to make sure that everything was going right. And I felt like that was my, responsibility. And so fast forward a few years, we have a lot more people on the team, and we're starting to, kind of diversify all the things that happen within the company and how they happen and who is actually accountable for them. And so as I started to, kind of step back into this new role and let other people kind of do what they were, tasked with doing, what they were accountable to be doing, I realized exactly how many things I was actually involved in that I didn't really need to be involved in, right? That it was just kind of a function of habit, if you will. Like, I was involved in all these things, and I really had no business being involved in all of them. And what I realized was this, and this is the lesson that I want you guys to take away from being a micromanager and how negatively impactful it is without you even realizing it, is I realized how much I was holding people back inside of our company from being able to grow, from being able to step into the next level of who they wanted to be, because I was constantly running to every little fire, right? I was running to every little fire that there was and putting it out. And I wasn't giving these people the opportunity to first and foremost step into what they wanted to do, but also to be able to handle those fires themselves, because that is how we feel ultimately good about ourselves, is by knowing what we're doing, right? When we know what we're doing, when we feel like we're experts at what we're doing, we feel more fulfilled. We feel more attached to the actual mission and the goal of the company and of the team. And so by us being micromanagers at times, we take the ability to do that away from our people. We take the ability for them to feel fulfilled in what they are doing because we are worried about every little mistake. And so the reality is, guys, that you have to allow people the space to grow into themselves, the space to make mistakes. It doesn't mean, again, that you let them just go on their own and make whatever mistakes that they can, that they're capable of, because at times people don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And so they're making decisions without a lot of knowledge on a specific situation. And so it's important for us to lead and advise, but not to manage or micromanage, right? And I think that it's very important for us to be able to create that space for people to step into their own greatness. And I challenge you guys to think about that, even if it's in your own family. And listen, sometimes people fall down time after time after time after time, right? We give them the opportunities and they will fall down. As long as you still believe in the long-term success of that individual, as long as you believe that where you're heading, that person has the ability to make it to where you originally thought they were going to make it, you continue pouring into them. You continue redirecting their path. You continue to encourage them even when they fall down, even when they make mistakes. You encourage them that is part of the process of learning. It's part of the process of them stepping into something that maybe they've never done before. It's part of you stepping into that next version of you as a leader, is to allow those mistakes and to explain that training requires people to make mistakes. Requires it, doesn't it? We're training people to do something they've never done before, but we're trying to manage them to make it perfect. So I encourage you to think about this today. You should lead and advise and encourage on principles. You should not be managing every little detail and driving people crazy, because that's what micromanagers do, by the way. You should be leading on the principles and the values and the things that the company stands for, or your family stands for, or you believe this person wants to stand for, whoever you're advising. Lead on those things, right? And remind people of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Motivate them, inspire them, tell them it's okay to make mistakes. And be there, right? Be a resource, but don't be a micromanager. I hope this message was helpful for you guys this morning. I know that it is one that a lot of people deal with. A lot of people go to work and they're micromanaged every day versus being led. And I know, I've been in that situation in the past myself, and so I know, how it feels. It doesn't feel very fulfilling to be, working for someone that's micromanaging every last detail. We far more prefer to be in situations where we have the ability to grow, right? Where we have the ability to step outside of our own comfort zone and step into something that maybe we've thought about wanting to do for a long time and just never did. And part of the reason why sometimes people never step into those next opportunities is because they're afraid of how someone is going to manage them if they do. They're afraid of the mistakes because they're afraid of how they're going to be reacted to. And that's a result of their leadership, right? Somebody being a micromanager instead of being a leader. And so as we give people the opportunity to grow into these positions and to grow into the next version of themselves, it's important for us to lead, inspire, motivate, encourage, and educate, not to micromanage. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you again tomorrow morning, same place, same time, right here on Morning Perspective.